Welcome to Chatsunami. Hello everyone and welcome to another special episode of Chatsunami. I'm Satsunami and joining me today is my fellow Stardust Crusader, BlowfishmanTV. Blowfish, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, man. It's always good to be helping out a friend and talking JoJo. You know me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially when it comes to JoJo. That is the that is the meeting point, isn't it?
Fun fact for the guys in the comments, we were a little late because we were talking about JoJo when we were recording this episode.
Well, we're talking more about our favourite part than we were about this part, so that's kind of a spoiler into what's to come, I think. As you can see, today we are going to be talking about the third part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, that of course being Stardust Crusaders. And all I'm going to say is, what a part it is. Where do we even begin?
I don't know, there's like... There was, when part 3 hit, it just changed a lot about, JoJo itself, in the sense that, like, hey, the main character is just pretty much a brooding edgelord, no offense to Jotaro fans, and there's no more Hamon, other than one person.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like, big changes, big storyline changes too, and it picks up right where the end of part 2 left off, when, old Joseph ends up going to an airport in Japan to see his daughter, I believe.
Yeah.
And him blaming the Japanese, or hating on the Japanese, even though he likes their gadgets. So that's where it starts off, part 3.
And honestly, like, with an ending like that, I remember when I was watching it, I was really hyped to see what was coming next. And I remember seeing, like, the protagonist. So at the end, as you said, of part 2, they have, like, that where Joseph is flying over to Japan to see his daughter and grandson. But the only problem is they also show you like a kind of teaser of what's to come. So they show you Jotaro Kujo, who will be like the new protagonist and also Joseph's grandson. And they also show you a coffin that has been dug up out of the ocean with the, of course, the name Dio on it to kind of basically foreshadow about who the main villain's going to be for part 3. And I remember, like, texting my friend at the time being like, oh, this is cool, I can't wait to see what Jotaro's going to do with Hamon. And I got a very rude awakening when I actually watched this part to realise not only does Jotaro not know a damn thing about Hamon, but the fact that this is when Araki, he basically changed the whole system of how this world worked, didn't he?
He did 100%.
Yeah, so he introduces... So you might have heard in the previous parts, when we were talking about parts 1 and 2, we were talking about Hamon quite a lot, and then we basically refer to something called stands, which are... How to describe it? Like, I don't want to say spiritual Pokemon, it's like...
I mean, kinda. Just kinda,
yeah.
I like to put it as like special battle spirits that sort of are like Rock'em Sock'em robots in part 3 only.
Yeah.
In part 3 only, but the rest of the part onwards, it gets a lot more like creative with the stands.
Yeah, because I feel as if for this part, this is a part, as we were saying, where Araki changes everything about the world. So before in parts 1 and 2, it was basically vampires and ghouls and, kind of like mythical creatures and oiled up gods, which we won't refer to too much in this part. And... like, those were the villains. I can't believe I'm saying that. But those were the villains. And then all of a sudden we get to part 3. And technically part 3 is oiled up vampire. But we will come to that.
Yes.
But also...
just combining both the parts, the first two parts of the first two villain parts, yeah.
To
create the ultimate villain, but yeah.
It's like, I know we bring up D&D a lot when we talk about JoJo, but it's like, what do you call it, like multi-classing? Is that what you call it?
100%.
Where it is just like building on being like, okay, this guy's got Hamon, but he's also got, a special spirit power, and he's also got this, and you're just like, what is going on in your life?
Funny enough that you mentioned that, Satsu, because there's a guy I watch on YouTube, and he actually got so many requests like, oh, could you build Jotaro as a D&D character, or could you build Dio as a D&D character? And I watched it. I'm like, both of those builds are They're pretty solid, but it probably wouldn't be super viable. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you sending me that through a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
they were so good.
They are good. They're good.
I don't know, it's just, I don't know if it was because his editor had said to him at the time, Iraqi, I mean, I don't know if it's because they had said to him that, oh, Hamon's getting stale, so you need to kind of jazz it up. And
Mhm.
his, like, response to that was, okay, I'm going to jazz it up by getting spirits. Or rock'em
Mhm.
sock'em spirits, as you said.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
yeah, it's just, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad choice, but I
It's
feel
not.
as if it gets off to a very rocky start.
It
Like,
does.
they just throw you in, and they're
Mhm.
just like, oh, this is a stand, this is a. So, sorry, let me backtrack, because I suppose the beginning kind of explains it. When Joseph arrives, and then he realises that his grandson is in jail, but in jail out of his own kind of choice, because he
Mhm.
believes that an evil spirit's haunting him. And then his grandfather comes, and Joseph is just like, oh no, it's it's a stand. It's a
Yeah,
baby stand. And you're like, what the hell is a stand?
pretty much. Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's like, you know that meme where it's the person crying saying, I bloody miss her. I want her back. That was like me with
Yeah.
Hamon when I was hearing him talking about this. I miss Hamon. I want her back. Why won't
Oh,
she come?
that's funny.
Why won't she return my calls? And
Oh,
um,
that's good.
yeah, he eventually gets him out the jail cell. There's kind of a back and forth between Joseph, Jotaro, and another new character called Muhammad Avdol, who has basically a Kentucky Fried Stand, isn't it?
As oh my god, that's a good one. I never would have thought of
Yeah.
that Satsu.
Yeah, it's a giant, like, flaming bird. Just in case anyone's wondering why he's
Yep.
summoning, like, chicken. It's like, no, it is like a massive
Fire
flame
chicken.
bird. Yeah, fire chicken, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
Spicy wings, essentially.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
We'll call it spicy wings just for
Spicy
the sake of
wings.
this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he summons Spicy Wings and ends up dragging Jotaro out, and they eventually kind of explain what stands are all about. So, as we said, they're like a kind of mental manifestation of, like, the user's, I don't know, like not a physical, sorry, a mental manifestation of, like, the user.
Something like that.
Yeah, which makes me wonder why Jotaro's is like a big purple muscly man. Yeah, I don't. I'm not even going to question that. But
I'm not either.
um,
Looking like genie looking ass, you know?
yeah, he comes out like, yeah, it is, isn't it? It just looks like a huge genie, or like a
A
buff
huge
genie.
jacked purple genie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine if you were watching Aladdin and Aladdin didn't find the genie. So the genie decided just to do, like, like a lot of exercise and then came out absolutely jacked 1,000 years later. That's what it
Yep.
would be like. Minus Robin Williams voicing them, but you know what I mean? It's just like this jacked genie, which is a phrase I never thought I'd say tonight. So yeah, I'm keeping count of like things I thought I'd never say tonight.
Oh god.
There's going to be a
We're
lot.
probably gonna say so much.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. So the basic premise that's set up after they get Jotaro out of jail is Jotaro's mother and Joseph's daughter falls ill. Him, Avdol, Joseph, and a rival, an enemy turned friend, which we will come on to later, end up joining forces to stop the evil, drum roll please, the evil Dio, who is the same Dio from part 1, who somehow survived, like, getting blown up, and this is kind of my first gripe with the series. Like, I had to pause it and be like, I'm like, hold on a minute. Like, I was texting my friend, like, hold on. He got blown up. He was ahead. How did?
Yeah.
So
How did he survive,
yeah,
right?
he should be dead. And it's like, well, technically he is. If you remember from our part 1 retrospective, at the end of part 1, spoilers, Dio and Jonathan end up fighting to the death, and Jonathan ends up dying with Dio's head in his arms as Dio starts kind of, trust me, in context this makes a whole lot of sense. But
Yeah,
Dio,
trust us, guys. Just trust. It sounds weird, but trust us.
yeah, trust us, yeah, it's JoJo, trust us. But yeah, he's holding his head, and he passes away peacefully, and it's all sad and everything, and you think, okay, that's the end of Dio and Jonathan. Only, for this to work, apparently Dio took Jonathan's body saw Irina and the baby she was holding, snuck into a secret compartment underneath, which God knows how that didn't weigh the coffin down, because
Yeah, right.
Jonathan was jacked as shit, wasn't he? He was like, as I've said before, he's built like a shit brick house, but he really is. He is massive, so that would have sunk it, first and foremost.
100%.
Like, but yeah, like putting that aside, how did he sneak into the coffin with this huge body? Like,
That's what I'm
Arena.
saying. Like, what
Yeah.
the hell?
Yeah, like, it's the only kind of, like, major plot hole. And usually, like, I can wave plot holes aside and be like, oh, a wizard did it, or sorry, a stand did it.
A
But,
wizard did it.
yeah, a
What is this,
wizard.
D&D?
Yeah, exactly. But, like,
Necromancer.
exactly. But in this case, it's just like, okay, the premise, first of all, the premise makes absolutely zero sense. Like,
Doesn't.
how? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good to have Dio back in the kind of leading villain role, but why? Or how? Would it,
Yeah,
like, did he have a
I get what you
second
mean.
coffin? Or, like, because that's the
Hmm.
official explanation, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it's he ends up sneaking into the, like, the hidden compartment of the
Yeah,
coffin, to which I'm thinking, why is there well, I suppose,
something
like,
like that. Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, Castlevania probably logic,
yeah.
but yeah, it's just it's a very weird explanation, and I've heard like a lot of fans, like the conspiracy boards where they've got them on the walls, and they're like, okay, Dio would have done this, he would have done that, and it's like, no, just stop, please.
Bliss, pretty much.
Zawardo and those thoughts, just stop.
Bliss.
But like, please. So that's like the first problem. But yeah, if you put that aside and be like, oh yeah, he's a ninja vampire now, then yeah. So because Dio's alive now and kind of resurrected, he's basically infected the world with these things called stands, which, as we said, are the mental or the physical manifestations of like the user. And like for some reason, I think it's just random. Except for
It
like the
is.
Joestar family, like they're like first in line, where they're just like, okay, Joseph gets a stand, Jotaro gets his stand, but then the problem comes in when Jotaro's mother gets a stand, and for some reason she can't really keep up with the stand, so she falls like deathly ill, and
Mhm.
for some reason they conclude that the only way to stop it is to punch this this like 100-year-old vampire to death,
Yeah,
and it's
right.
like, okay, fair enough. I'm on board with this. Let's go. Yeah, that's the basic premise, that the Stardust Crusaders, which, why are they called the Stardust Crusaders? Did
I
they ever
don't
explain?
know. I don't think they ever did. I think because it might have had something to do with their stands names and how they're all named after like tarot cards, I believe, right? Something
Oh
like
yeah.
that. And then like tarot cards, constellation, star. I don't know, like something like that,
Yeah,
right?
because I'm just thinking, is it not the same like in Dragon Ball Z, where they're just like referred to as the Z Fighters?
Yeah.
And it's like, but why though? Other than
Why
the
Z?
fact it's
You
called
know, like
Dragon
yeah,
Ball Z, yeah, it's like,
I know, right?
but why though? Well, it's
Mhm.
like, imagine if you were watching Hunter x Hunter and they were referred to as like the X Files. It's like, but, it's
X
like,
Files. That's
yeah,
a
but
good
it's
one.
like, but why though? Why would you do
But
that?
why?
Yeah, maybe there is. Like, if there's an explanation, then please feel free to comment below and just tell us
Yes,
why,
please.
because I might just be missing it. Like, in all seriousness, maybe it's in the
Mhm.
manga, or maybe it's
Probably.
just like, yeah, let's just call them the Stardust Crusaders.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the basic premise of it. And yeah, I've just gonna ask you, like, before we get into the characters and things, how did you feel? Like, see, getting to that point where you get introduced to stands, you get introduced to the Stardust Crusaders themselves, and then they set off to stop Dio. What were you feeling like at that point? How did you feel about how the series was gonna go?
Honestly, the moment that they dropped this whole new power system and just completely wrote off Hamon, I'm like, huh? That's like my first things first, like the new power, which is called stands. I'm like, what happened to did it come from what? Okay, that was literally like
Yeah.
what I thought of that first, right? Secondly, it felt like I think you said it on the live version of your podcast on Twitch, where part 3 literally felt like a souped up Saturday morning cartoon where the superheroes are going to go take down the villain of the week, right? So I was kind of getting that vibe from the jump, right? And it's like, and it's eventually going to lead up to the big bad, which is Dio in this case, right? And yeah, so like I got that vibe. Started to feel like, yeah, souped up Saturday morning cartoon with muscly spirits, or as I like to put them, rock'em sock'em spirits, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, we'll see where this goes. I think part 3 is like another start where you have to be like, okay, if I could get through this, I could get on with the rest of the parts and see how it all makes sense, right? From part 3 onwards. So I did it because I'm like, okay. And like, even before all this, I already knew about the memes, and a lot of the memes that I knew about from JoJo before I even watched it were from part 3. So I was super curious about the context behind all these memes I've seen on the internet. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is the part where like all the popular memes are from. So I'm like, that's what I was also excited about when watching it. That's how I generally felt.
I had like a bingo card of like memes waiting there because
Yeah,
it's
me
like,
too.
okay, we've had the Pillar Men, we've had Konodilda, we've had Pluck. It's like, okay, what's going to be next? What's going to be next?
I was like, what does the world mean?
Yeah,
that's literally me.
because like I remember there was a video for I don't know if you ever saw this one, but it was one for when Pokemon Sword and Shield came out, and apparently there's this like weird bug in the game, and I don't think they've patched it, but it's basically whenever you go up a ladder in the game, the world just freezes around you, like everybody just stops in motion. So I remember watching like a meme video for it, and someone had just edited, as soon as he touches like the bars of the ladder, all you just hear in the background is Zawardo. And it's just like, it's a sound effect, and then everyone just freezes. And that was like before I'd got into JoJo, so it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I know it's a JoJo reference, but I have no idea what it's referring to. I just know it's something to do with stopping time or something. I was just like, I have no idea what is going on.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this dubstep noise that I'm hearing whenever this golden man yells the world? Pretty much.
Exactly. But that's the thing though, like kind of going back to what you were saying before, like in part 1 and 2, there was always this kind of continuous story, wasn't there? Like
There was.
In part 1, there was this, you start off, with the brothers, with the rivalry, the brother turns himself into a vampire, tries to take over a small village, brother stops him, tale as old as time, Whereas part 2 is like training for the end goal of stopping the Pillar Men. And there was always this kind of continual thread of building up to the end goal for each of them. So like even with Jonathan, like Jonathan got so close to Dio, and then he just missed him when he had to fight someone else or one of his, goons. For Joseph, he had his side plots and everything, but they all kind of like led up to the end. With Stardust Crusaders, I was really surprised with the format they went for. Like, I know I do say a lot that, it just feels like a jumped up Saturday morning cartoon. But it feels as if, like, every single episode, there was just a random person with a different, stand ability. Like,
100%.
I mean, the first person that Jotaro fights is someone who eventually becomes an ally called Kakyoin. And he was criminally underdeveloped.
He was.
I feel as if he had more screen time. See, this is the thing that annoys me, because there's a lot of episodes in this. There's like, over 40 odds? I think. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember, but there's over 40 episodes of this. But they don't develop in the right areas, I feel. And don't get me wrong, that's not me like pushing up my glasses being like, if I wrote Stardust Crusaders. Because I can't imagine like how hard it must be to like throw out a completely different power system and then try and introduce this new one and try and make it all fit in. Like, I can imagine that was really difficult. But at the same
100%.
time... At the same time, it's like, there is a lot of filler in this. Like,
a ton.
I mean, this is coming from someone who watched Dragon Ball back in the day. Like, it is very fillery in some bits. Like, basically, like, every week they try to get closer to Egypt, but they're foiled by one of, like, Dio's minions. So it's like, in the first one, let's just take a plane straight to Egypt. Oh no, there's a guy with a fly on board who, like, destroys the plane. Oh, let's walk. Oh no, there's a guy who's, like, turned himself into a car or something. That's like, what? Or doesn't turn himself, but like,
I forgot about the car dude. I forgot about him the moment you...
Yeah.
Oh my god.
There's like a guy... Oh,
Oh
sorry.
my god.
Oh, yeah, exactly. There's a guy who like not turns himself into the sun, but like has like an ability to generate a massive sun. Which I thought, Dio, come here.
That's
Yeah,
OP.
yeah. It's like Dio, you're a vampire. You literally sun is your kryptonite.
Yeah,
Why
actually,
the
though.
hell would you hire this guy? I feel
What
as
if he
if,
turns on you? You never know.
yeah, I feel as if it's like a rat hiring the Pied Piper, to like do his windows or something. It's like sooner or later this is gonna go wrong. This is not gonna end well.
I know, right? God.
Like, and eventually they just like that. This is the thing though. There's like 9 times out, or not 9 times out of 10. That's a bit too harsh, but like maybe 7 times out of 10, they always go out in very anticlimactic ways. It's like, oh, Jotaro just punches them really hard, or another character like stabs them, or it's like there's no real. I don't know, it's like, how in part 1 and 2, it's like when something happened to a character, it felt as if there was consequences. Whereas in part 3, it's like you sit there kind of watching thinking, alright, well they have to survive at least like 3/4 of this series.
Yeah.
So surely surely nothing majorly bad is going to happen. Well, technically there is, but spoilers, we'll get to that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's like it honestly feels like a very violent version of Scooby-Doo at times, because the amount of times it's like, there must be an enemy stand user here, and you're like, oh, honestly, you might as well get that printed on a t-shirt, because the amount of times you hear it is just ridiculous.
Or like another meme that I see is just like, sees random object, is that a stand?
Yeah, exactly. See, this is the thing though. It's like I feel as if like, and again we'll talk about it next time, but in part 4 part 4 and part 5, I think Araki like finally knew what to do with the stands. Whereas in this one, they are just like OP as hell. Like, as I said, you've got the guy who's like literally the sun, and it's not even like a tiny sun or a bit of light. I mean like a full-on like eclipse of a sun. It's like, what the actual hell? There's the car guy, which, to be fair, that must save a hell of a lot in petrol. So good on him.
Oh yeah.
There's the baby stand, which I don't get it. I did not get that one.
Baby stand.
Yeah, the baby.
Oh my god.
So yeah, basically the way they introduce it is that anybody can have a stand, like including babies and animals, which again we'll get onto that as well, believe you me. But yeah, there's one enemy stand user who has, like, if you fall asleep, then they can invade your dreams, which is a cool idea, but not when not when the stand user is a literal baby. I don't know, like, it just felt uncomfortable when you see them looming over this baby, and you're just like, oh god, are they going to beat the shit out of a baby? It's like, I am not prepared for this adventure. Okay. But it honestly felt as if it was just like a different, just rinse and repeat. There was only a couple of, like, standout users. Standout users. Not intentional at all, by the way. I'm just going to point that out. But like,
I'm kidding.
like a whole lot of users. Like, for example, you've got Ho Horse, who is Araki's token cowboy of the series, who literally, his power is just to summon a gun. That's it. He just summons a gun. And it's like,
He just summons a gun.
yeah, that's it. He can control the bullets, mind you, but it's just like, he's just got a gun. You've got another guy who can hide in reflections, which I have to admit, I thought that was pretty cool. Can't remember his name,
about him.
but yeah,
he was
is
cool.
cool. And you've also got Ongo Bongo, who I honestly, like, I do have a soft spot for them. It's like,
They're all right.
yeah. Oh, really? Were you not a fan?
I was like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't really see much of a point to them. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh,
yeah. I was like, I mean, like, because the thing is, when I was watching all these random stand assassin users try to kill the Stardust Crusaders, and you just get these two random dudes. Like, yeah, they're strong. It's just that, I don't know. It's just like, because I was so used to running into like the super serious guys in the series at this point, right? And they randomly just throw in these two idiots, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
But they're also very strong, and I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't really like, I guess it just put me in a mood. I'm like, okay, this is actually getting kind of serious, right?
Yeah.
And then they just dropped that on us, and I'm like, oh, that's really me. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wasn't a gigantic fan.
I feel as if there is like a lot of tonal whiplash in this part. There's some bits where they try to do like the comedy, and then immediately it's followed by an episode that's like super serious. I mean, it's like, it reminds me of the episode where Kakyoin, one of the Stardust Crusaders, gets like duplicated by a body double. And if you've been on the internet long enough and you see a red-haired anime man wearing a green jacket licking a cherry, yeah, this is who I'm talking about, by the way, just in case you've seen that gif. Yeah, exactly. And be like, I wonder what that's from. You know what? I'm saving you the time. It's part 3, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But it's like, yeah, it's like you go from that scene. So basically he like walks around, this duplicate like walks around pretending to be him, but he like purposely aggravates Jotaro to like fight him, and it goes from that where he's kind of just like messing around and kind of getting into his head to where he just straight up kills a dog, which again, this is Araki's famous oh, we gotta kill a dog in this part. It's like, for God's sake,
fucking guy. I was like, okay, we get it, you're a cat person, stop.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's like, please Araki, stop. Please. We get it. I don't know why he hates dogs so much. I know that's kind of like off tangent, but I don't get it. But anyway, Killer Queen aside, that'll be for next time. Yeah, it's like, there is like a massive whiplash where sometimes it's alright and then sometimes it's just weird. I think like this might be a very broad statement to make, but I feel as if part 3 is what either makes or breaks someone getting into JoJo. Like, I feel as if I could see why. Like, I feel as if part 1 and 2, part 1 is alright. It's like a very good start, and then part 2 just builds upon that and it's great. And then to kind of like start off again in part 3 and build your way up, but with all these, as I said, like Scooby-Doo nonsensical like sidetracks, it's like, oh, because the only reason I say this is because, and I think I said this before, where I said I actually nearly gave up the series, and I think it's episode 8 or 9, can't remember the exact one, but it's the one with the orangutan, if you remember that one.
Oh, the ship, right?
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, the ship. Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Oh, like, this is the episode that genuinely, like, nearly, like, I think I took a bit of a break after I watched that episode, because I'm like, I don't know if I want to continue with this show.
I don't blame you, son, because I was very confused by that episode too. It's like, wait, why is there's a ship and there's an orangutan? What?
Yeah.
What? That's literally me.
Yeah, so basically this is the first episode where they reveal that animals can use stands as well. Why Dio hired an orangutan, I don't know. Don't ask us. How did he end up speaking with it? Like, yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he's just like, he's an orangutan in a captain's outfit, but he doesn't speak. I don't get it. I don't get it. But I think, okay, I don't
understand.
You know, it's like,
I really don't.
It's like, I've seen worse in anime. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I've seen worse. So, you know what, Araki, what have you got in store for us? So at this point, I can't remember how they get on. Oh, that's it. I think they take like a boat from, I can't even remember. It's like from one place to the other, they're taking a boat, and because the captain turns out to be an evil fish stand user, and Jotaro basically obliterates the hell out of him, I think that's why they end up in the ocean. And they're kind of like sailing along thinking, how the hell are we going to get to dry land? And they come across this massive freight ship, to which they go on thinking, oh, thank goodness we're saved. And it's this kind of like really eerie, isn't it? It's like an eerie, like ghostly feel. You're like, oh, what's happening here? And you're quite intrigued, because you're like, people like some of the crew members who survive, you know, the extra characters who are just meat shields, let's face it.
Yeah,
like they're getting killed off. If you don't have candy coloured hair in JoJo, or you're not like a Joestar, then you've got no chance.
Yeah, you've got no chance. Sorry guys, that's how it is, you know. Yeah. Or if you don't have hair that's like just out of the ordinary, you know.
If you're basic with your hairstyles, you're not going to survive in JoJo. I think that's the lesson. But they all get killed off, and you think, oh, what's going on? And then you see this orangutan like locked up underneath, and you're like, huh, okay. And then there's this scene, and let me paint you a picture. So, and apologies for this, Blowfish. Apologies for me like going off in a rant for this, but this is like,
that's okay.
This is honestly the moment I nearly just flung out the series for good. It was basic. I'm trying to remember what happened, but anyway, they eventually they realize they have a stowaway in the form of, I want to say, a young girl, but at the same time it's hard to tell like ages, because Jotaro's supposed to be 17 years old, and much
Yes,
like
and
his
he's bigger than
granddad,
both of us.
yeah,
He's
it's like
bigger than both of
yeah,
us.
like much like his granddad. Again, at the like age of 17, he's built like he's massive. He's absolutely huge. So it's like there's
Hercules.
no way.
I don't know, man.
So I don't know what age she's supposed to be. She's a child anyway.
Yeah, like the
But
random little girl. I forgot her
yeah.
name, but like she decides to tag along at one point. Like what?
Yeah, it's such a weird addition because it never
It
amounts to anything. Like I wouldn't
really.
mind if it's like, because she sticks around for like a good couple of episodes, and then
Yeah, a
one day,
lot.
and then one day she just waves off and is like, okay, bye, and that's it. And you're like, was that it?
Yeah, right.
It's like, Araki, explain. It's like,
Please.
yeah, did you forget?
I'm like, oh my god, of course you forgot.
Oh, like I don't understand. But anyway, sorry, that's a separate issue. The issue I'm coming on to is, yeah, for some reason in this ghost ship where people are getting skewered and like sucked into like the floorboards and everything, yeah, this girl decides to go for a shower. And yeah,
Yeah, oh my god.
yeah, of course, the creepy orangutan just like comes out of his cage, starts to kind of like phase through the walls, and it's
Yeah.
like that's the moment where I was just like, okay, what the hell? Right, stop, just. It's like I've
No
seen,
more, no more.
yeah, it's like, now I've seen some shit in my time, but this, this really takes the cake. I'm like,
Pretty
what?
much.
Like, I genuinely, I think I just fast forwarded through it because I'm like, right, okay, Jotaro beats them up. Turns out the whole boat's a stand. I'm like, where does it
Yeah.
end? Like, oh,
Yeah, I don't know. And then at one point, I think it's the same episode, Satsu.
Yeah.
Like two episodes down the line, you know, they defeat the orangutan,
oh yeah,
and then at one point they have like an underwater battle. Do you remember that?
oh yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know. It was like kind of
Yeah.
all over the place, right?
Yeah, because that was one of the things, like, I know we're kind of skipping back and forth, like, for the story, but let's face it, see until we get to like, Egypt, like, when the characters get to Egypt,
Yeah.
really, we can take this in any... we can take us in any order, because it's like, you can watch
Yeah.
these episodes in
Honestly,
any order,
like
for the most
everyone
part.
watching this, the
Yeah.
moment you get to the Egypt arc, that's when it actually starts feeling like an actual story. I
Oh,
don't know if
yeah.
that's just me, Satsu. Yeah.
No, I totally agree with that, because at least it's building up to something. Whereas for the first part of part 3 is just all over the place. Because this is the thing, I don't know if we were talking about it last time when we did the whole retrospective, but it was when it was like we were talking about how the stands were named. So all the stands are named after a tarot card. So it's like Jotaro's stand is called Star Platinum, which, as we said, buff genie that punches hard. You know, no difference
purple.
there. Yeah, purple. Like, no difference there. We have Avdol, who is Magician's Red, I think is called. Or Spicy Wings, yeah.
That's what we
Spicy,
call 'em,
because I have to admit, I panicked a little bit earlier because I was going to say stand name, and I was like, oh god, now I can only think of it as Spicy Wings. I thought, what?
Like, I mean, yeah, I'd love to have spicy wings as a stand, you know?
Yeah. Spicy Wing. You know, it's like, I would love to call that out. Yeah, you've got, I think it's Hermit Purple for Joseph, and then for Kakyoin, he's just got a kind of, I don't know what Hierophant Green is.
Hierophant green, yeah.
Yeah,
I think the card is literally just called the Hierophant, and then
Oh,
that
is
was
it?
it,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
I don't know too much about tarot cards.
Yeah,
So.
it's just like me neither. I was lost when they're like, oh yes, it's death, it's the tower, it's this and that. I'm like,
The devil and all
yeah,
that.
and I'm like, all right, okay. But that's the thing though, it's like they get through the tarot cards, and thank God that like thank God that Jotaro got his stand when he did. Because otherwise he would have run out of tarot cards. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
what would you have done then? Would you have just called it Friend Like Me or something like that? Like, what's he going to call it? It's like, so thank God.
Satsuka.
Exactly. Kono Satsuda. But it's just, yeah, it's like eventually, like once they get to Egypt, they've defeated all the tarot cards people. And then they're like, okay, now we're doing the Egyptian god themes. And it's like, you are just the worst. It's like,
Yeah. Because there's like, I think there's like 12 Egyptian gods,
Yeah,
and there's like
something.
12 generals they had to face,
Yeah.
something like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's something It's just so weird. Just how they choose the names. Like, the tarot card thing is interesting, but it's like...
It is.
Well, it like limits who's going to have a stand and who isn't. And then after that, it's like, okay, what now? What do we do?
Egyptian gods.
Exactly, yeah, Egyptian gods. And I think I said this to you last time, but it's like, well, what if they didn't end up in Egypt? What if they ended up in, like, I don't know, Scotland? Like, would they have named it after, like, different chippies, or...
Yeah, right? I'm like, oh, you know, it was like, yeah, what if there's like, oh, what if Dio was in America the whole time? Would they name it after different hamburgers? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, because I think, like, later on in the series, in, like, 4 and 5, he names it after musicians and songs, which is
cool.
It's cool, but it's like a legal nightmare for him.
It is 100%, which is why they sort of change up the names, you know?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, my God, just keep it to the tarot cards, Jesus.
Yeah, pretty much, or at least just come up with like original names. I don't know.
Oh yeah, exactly. Of course, throughout the story, they eventually pick up like more friends. So I've actually been thinking about this character just as we're talking, and I'm like, when do I actually slot him in to talk about him?
Oh God, which character?
Polnareff.
Yes. Oh my God, I forgot about our friend Shimbo. Yes.
Yeah. He is, I have to admit, the first time I saw him, so basically they're at a restaurant in, I can't even remember where it is, but it's like along the way. And in fact, I think it's Hong Kong. They could be.
I think it was in Hong Kong.
Yeah, they get to Hong Kong and they're having like just a normal dinner, and then they get like, they not invaded, but they get like confronted by this Frenchman who is obviously, it's an anime, so it's the most Japanese sounding Frenchman in history.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
I feel as if, I don't know if this is just like a general anime thing or it's just like JoJo, but it's like, you know, when you have a character from another country in an anime, and it's like, how can you tell they're from another country? And it's like, the reason is because they pepper their like vocabulary with
they do
with like,
it's like broken Japanese or something.
Yeah,
something like that, or like they have like an accent that doesn't sound like super Japanese, right?
Yeah, because it's like for Polnareff, and don't get me wrong, it's the same in the English dub as well. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, it's just the Japanese. It's the same in the English. But it's like, when he turns round and he's speaking normally, and then he'll say something like, très bien, merci.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Merci.
très beaucoup.
And you're like,
yeah, exactly. And it's like, come on.
Japan, seriously, pretty much.
It's like, mon dieu. You're like, oh, for God's sake. But I do like his stand, though. So his stand is called...
I like Silver Chariot.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite one out of the 5, to be honest.
Silver Chariot is essentially just like it's like a suit of armor that fences, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And then he could also take off the suit of armor to make him faster, right? Which is pretty interesting. That's an interesting mechanic, which is what I like.
Yeah. And it sounds about right for JoJo. You know, the less clothes, the stronger you
stronger
become.
you are. Look at the Pillar Men, right?
Exactly,
like, these guys had like no clothes.
Yeah.
Other than like loincloths and like a few piercings and headdresses. I don't know.
Yeah, they nearly kicked their asses. I know.
Yeah, right? Like, Jesus Christ.
So what you're saying is, if Dio had taken off his shirt in that final battle, he probably would have won.
Yeah, no, like, I feel like time also probably would go off would stay stopped for longer periods of time. You know, he'll definitely be stronger. Yeah. He'll be faster, definitely. But yeah, like,
I don't know. Yeah.
No shirt Dio versus Jotaro would have been been a wrap in like a few minutes, man.
Yeah, it would have been a washout, exactly.
Yeah.
Man, they should have got us to write for this.
Right? Goodness. Fix up part 3, you know, Satsu and Blowfish. Just spam that in like in Araki's like Twitter or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's just such a weird like collection of characters. Although I have to admit, I did warm up to the characters.
I did.
Like, honestly, to begin with, I was kind of like, you're not the same. You're not Zeppeli, or you're not this or that. But the more I watched it, the more I kind of thought, okay, this is growing on me.
This is different.
Yeah, it's like...
I was going to make a reference about the Zeppeli comment. You was like, how dare you stand where you
stood? Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, there's no Zeppeli in this art.
Yeah, that's true. There is no Zeppeli in part 3.
Which is so weird.
Yeah, because... I kind of miss that whole idea of like a Zeppeli being there every part. But then it also makes you sad because I'm like, they're probably going to die somehow. And you're going to get attached to this character and that's it, right? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, I think they're like, oh, well, we broke the fans' hearts by killing off Caesar. So I think we're going to stop doing that for a while, pretty much.
Speaking of, going into more spoilers than usual, but can we talk about one particular death in this series?
Sure.
that, like, so throughout the journey, as we were saying before, there is a scene, or rather an episode, where they come face to face with two particular characters who I think we've established we actually don't mind them. That, of course, being Whole Horse and the mirror stand user, or the reflective one.
Oh, that one! Yes, yeah. Oh my gosh, forgot about that one.
And basically, Polnareff ends up confronting Whole Horse, thinking he can deflect a bullet with his rapier, and it's like, huh. Okay, and then I have to admit, I personally think it's as bullshit as Dio's laser eyes. When it's like he goes to cut the bullet, but then it's like, oh no, the bullet like swerved out the way, and then like went on its normal course, and it's like, okay, even for magic, this is bull. This is you're clearly hacking the system. It's like there is no way. It's so, I don't know. It was weird, but eventually Avdol comes to save him, and he ends up like dying because he ends up getting stabbed and shot in the head. And I'm not gonna lie, like I felt really bad. I was like, oh god.
Yeah. I liked Avdol. Like, as much as we like to meme on his on Magician's Red, I didn't mind him too much as a character. He was kind of cool. He was kind of cool, you know.
Yeah, because he's like one of the only characters who's stuck with them throughout the entire thing. And it's like such a sad death because there's a scene where Kakyoin and Polnareff are driving away trying to escape, and Polnareff like tries to be the bigger man, you know, and JoJo, that's saying something. But he tries to be the bigger man, to be like, oh, I'm going to, you know, like, you know, who needs help? Why did he come? He was a fool for, he was a fool for helping me. And then you can see him, like, just break down into tears. And that got me, because I was like, oh, that's sad.
Yeah, that was sad. Like, I remember that scene. He's like, he's turned around and he's like going off about like, oh, he's a dumbass for helping me, this and that, you know? And then like, they sort of zoom up on his face and like, he's like breaking down into tears. Like, why did he do that? And I'm like, oh, that's so sad. I was like, oh, I actually did feel really bad. Like that made me feel even worse about it. That's like, oh, because Polnareff even feels bad. Because at first, I remember when I first heard those words out of his mouth, I was like, oh, he's a dumbass. I'm like, dude, don't say that. And I'm like, oh, the moment he turned around, right? Like, okay, I get it now.
Because it's almost like the Lisa light scene.
Yeah. Very much
she
like
reacts
the Lisa
to it, and she's like, you know, we should keep moving on and everything, and then, you know, it's clear that she's affected by it. So it's kind of a parallel to that, and it's sad, but then flash forward a couple of episodes later, and I don't know how you felt about this when you first saw it, but I thought this was the dumbest thing ever.
What part?
The Avdol resurrection arc, let's call it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I didn't know how to feel about it. I was like, I'm glad you're back. Like, huh? That was literally me.
Yeah, same. What really annoyed me was, so apparently, and I can't remember where it was said, but I think Iraqi wanted Whole Horse to be the next Crusader, which I don't know how well that would have worked, honestly. Like, because it keeps popping up, like, as comic relief almost. Like, I mean, speaking of, like, as we were saying earlier with, like, Ongo Bongo, who are, like, probably the goofiest characters, like, he comes back, like, Whole Horse comes back as well, and he is just, like, by the end of it, he's just a meme, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's just, like,
100%.
popping up as, like, the memeing cowboy, and you're like, okay, fair enough. And yeah, there's an episode where they go to Avdol's father's house, a wink, and throughout that, for some reason, Polnareff finds another genie stand, which is so weird. Like, how,
an actual genie stand?
Yeah, like a literal genie. In fact, did they ever establish it as a stand? Because they established it like a weird genie thing. But...
Yeah, I don't know if they... I think they did.
Yeah.
Because then I think... At that point in the story, Satsu, and I think they also reused this idea again in later parts, was there can be stands without users, which is interesting. Oh,
yeah.
Something like that. Like, it was like that sort of idea. And then I think they did it again in part 4 somewhere, right?
Yeah.
With, I'm not going to say anything. I think we'll talk about it when we get there, but I think I know which scene you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
Right?
No, I get you.
I think that's what they established. I was like, it's a stand, but where's its user? That's how you defeat it, right? And they're like, there is no user. Where I'm like, what? Pretty much. And then how do you defeat it?
Yeah.
right?
It's just like, it's basically just a giant, like, it doesn't look like a giant monkey paw, but it is like a monkey paw stand where it's like, oh, I
Yeah.
wish for wealth, or I wish for my sister back. And it's like, oh, plot twist, yeah, because your sister's dead,
Mhm.
yeah, enjoy this corpse. It's like,
Pretty much.
oh, yeah, so sorry, that's the reason why Polnareff actually joins the Crusaders, because he's looking for the man who killed his sister, which eventually finds the guy and kills him, which then leads on to a whole other thing. But he still sticks around with them, and I think he is quite a cool, he's quite a cool character overall. But in that episode, it's like he's asking for like really stupid stuff, like he's wanting a Polnareff land and things like that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if he wishes for Avdol back or what happens, but he's getting his ass kicked, essentially. And then Avdol appears, and he thinks it's like, I think that's the other meme, like the popular meme from this, when he goes, Muhammad Avdol, and Muhammad Avdol like turns around and goes, yes, I am. Well,
yeah, I forgot about that one.
Well, he says that in the Japanese dub, and the English dub, I think he goes, yes, that is correct, or something like that. It's like, it's not like, the
I wish
same.
they kept yes, I am. Yes, I am still works in English, right? That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And eventually it's revealed that he faked his death so he could get a submarine, and everybody knew about it except
for Polnareff.
I honestly thought that was just so dumb. Honestly, I was just like,
wait, what?
This is so stupid. This is just like, this is so dumb.
Funny you mentioned that, Satsu, because I think my brother Smasher like walked in and like watched a little bit of that with me.
Yeah.
I like he watched where his first episode was where Avdol ended up dying, right? He's like, oh shit, that's kind of sad, right?
Yeah.
And then when he sees that Avdol is like alive, like a week later, he's like, wait, didn't he just die? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, how the hell did he survive? He got shot in the head. I'm like, yeah, that was literally me to Smasher the whole time. It's like, I just shrugged my shoulders at this point.
Yeah, like it makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just it is. I think the thing that annoys me more about it is like later on he genuinely does get killed off, which made that whole scene, like, I watched it and I was just like, all right, like there was no emotion. I was just like, okay, he's dead.
There wasn't. He literally got Thanos snapped, and all that was left of him was an arm, from what I remember, which was fucked.
Oh, it's like a horrible like fate to go, or horrible way to go, but like I didn't care at that point. I was just like, okay. You've already killed
pretty
him.
much.
Yeah, it's like you've already killed him.
Dio?
But then, of course, by the time you get to Egypt, it is again. It's kind of similar to like what's come before, because see, as soon as you get to Egypt, you are just like, okay, when are we going to get to Dio? It's like, I know I bring this up a lot, but it's that same Simpsons scene where Milhouse is watching Itchy and Scratchy and he's crying and he's going, when are they going to get to the fireworks factory? Like, that was me with Dio. I was like, when are we going to get to Dio? Because it's like,
I know that feeling, man.
Over 30 episodes just getting to Egypt. And now you're in Egypt and you have to fight 12 more of these, like, chuckle fucks. It's like, what? No!
Yep.
It's like...
Pretty much, right?
And then they introduce, like, a new stand user called Iggy, who is, I don't even know, like, an ugly-ass dog. I'm sorry.
He is an ugly dog, but still, Iggy. That's all I'm gonna say.
I honestly, like, I feel as if we probably disagree in this bit, but like, I don't know how to feel about Iggy. Like, I feel as if he was just kind of. It just feels as if he comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, like the thing is, how did they write it in the story? It was just like, another one's joining us.
Yeah, they drop him off in the desert.
Yeah, it's like,
helicopter.
This new person on our team. Yeah, they're pretty strong, and they're going to help us with Dio. And I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, so there's going to be a 6th Crusader. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
And then they drop off this dog, like this spoiled brat dog, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, he sort of grew on me as time went on. But other than that, I was just I was so like taken aback the moment that he just first came into the show. I'm like, this dog is gonna help us defeat Dio. Is he like their low-key like secret weapon? Like, what's going on? Like, what's his stand? What can it do and all that, right?
Yeah.
And like from what I remember, they never really went into what the Fool could 100% do. It could do a lot of things from what I know.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? It was like one of those like a Swiss Army knife stands from what I could
Oh,
understand.
yeah. Yeah, I'm even trying to remember what it did.
It
Was
just
it?
looked cool. It did look really cool.
Oh,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie.
yeah. I'll admit. Yeah, no, it
Mhm.
definitely looked cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it feels like going back to the kind of tonal whiplash again. Like, you would have like a scene where it's like a blind man's trying to like stab them in the face with water. And it's like, on the other hand, this happens in the same episode, just for anyone listening. But
Mhm.
like in the same episode, or like later on, it's like Iggy's farting in Polnareff's face, and it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, it's
They
one of
sort of
those
built that whole
characters,
thing,
yeah,
or they were trying to build the thing where it's like, oh, their friendship's very antagonizing, but they still care for each other. I'm like,
yeah,
what is this, Naruto and Sasuke?
yeah.
You know, I'm like, except a dog and a Frenchman. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, Iggy, what are you doing? What have you done? I had to test my power. you know?
Pretty much, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh my god. But
Mhm.
yeah, you get like a whole mix of like, I can't even remember if this guy was in Egypt or not. But you know the guy who basically he nearly kills off Joseph
Yeah.
because he gets like a stand inside of him. I can't remember if that's Joseph or
Yeah, the
sorry,
one
if
where
that's
Joseph was
Egypt.
yelling like "Oh no" at the top of his lungs,
Yeah,
and like he was looking at a TV.
yeah,
Like
that's the
yeah,
famous. Oh my god!
like the whole
Yeah.
time he was like freaking out.
Yeah. And sorry, I
Oh
just
man.
realised we didn't address that, like what Joseph's stand is. The fact
Oh,
that,
Hermit Purple. It was just
yeah,
like it's literally just a bunch of thorn
yeah,
vines
not,
that come out of his forearm. You know what I mean? And he
uh,
kind of used it to like be like Spider-Man at some
yeah.
point.
But I mean, not even that. I'm thinking of his secondary ability where he has to get an expensive camera and punch it to see where people are, which I have to admit sounds like it's goofy enough where I'm like, okay, I'll let it slide.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, you broke like an $1,000 camera. What's
Yeah.
up? Pretty much.
Yeah, he just does it to see a naked picture of Dio, or technically a naked
Yeah,
picture, technically a photoshopped naked picture of his grandfather, who is still
yeah,
jacked,
yeah. Holy shit. Yeah, you're right.
which is a bit disturbing if you think about it too much.
Oh
So
yeah, 100%.
it's like
100%
it's like
disturbing.
so yeah. Well, let's move on from that quickly.
Yeah. Yep. Just naked Jonathan with a different head. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like Mr. Potato Head, but Cthulhu like. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking back to another episode where he had like a parasite in him, and there was like there was one episode where someone uses their stand to infect Joseph with this like parasite that grows and starts killing people around him, and Joseph does use his Hamon to try and get rid of it, and I'm not gonna lie, I was just like, yes, Hamon, woo, and then
I know the feeling.
and then he used it and it had no effect, and I was like, this show sucks. No
He's
Hamon.
like, oh
I'm
no.
like, oh
Pretty much.
no. But yeah, there's just so many. Oh god, we honestly could be here for ages, like going through like each one. But like, I mean, there's the Magnet Girl. There's the one I was just talking about there. Who I have to admit, the guy who has like
Magnet
the
Girl.
stand,
Yeah.
like in Joseph's brain, like he gets like one hell of a beatdown, and that is just
Yeah,
so
from Jotaro.
satisfying. Yeah,
It
Jotaro
was.
just.
That guy was he was an asshole. I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
yeah, this I kind of want to see this come
Yeah.
up. And so I'm like, okay, I know you're a filler enemy, but still, right?
It's just like, see that arc where, or not the arc, but like when the music builds up and he's like,
Yeah.
you can't repay your debt with money. Yeah. And then it fades to black and then it just cuts back to him pummeling them. And it's like, oh, chef kiss, just brilliant.
It was great. It was fantastic.
But I mean, you've got that, you've got. I'm gonna be on. Like, I'll reference one more. I'm thinking
Sure.
more of the Shadow Benjamin Button Man.
Oh, him! That was a interesting stand. Like, actually, I'm
Yeah.
like, this thing is powerful. What the hell? And then, like, Polnareff's girl. Like, what happened with her? I'm just like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! It felt like a horror movie. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, like it was.
I loved it though.
It was terrifying. Like I thought the
It was.
stand idea was good, but it was like
Mhm.
gonna cover up Polnareff because this is making me uncomfortable. It's like every
yeah.
like some bits where it's just like it was more when Polnareff gets taken in by the woman, and the woman's like, oh, like sorry, just to reiterate, like when you stand in this guy's shadow, he de-ages you. So I think Polnareff stands in it for about like a couple of seconds by accident, and he ends up getting turned into a child. So he like runs away and he gets the help of this like just this random woman, and she like takes him in and starts bathing him, and he's like, "Oh, this is great," and things, and I'm like, "Stop, stop,
Yeah.
please
Pause,
stop,
pause,
yeah,
hold on,
please,
hold on.
please stop,
Please.
please," and. Yeah, there are so many. I mean, there's that. There's the sword as well. That's a stand that drives people crazy and can phase through things. Oh, there's just so many. Like,
There's a lot.
but there's
a ton.
honestly such a mix that either you're going to love them or you're just going to be mentally and physically drained. But I'm saving the second best till last, and I'll let you like describe these guys. The Darcy brothers, of course.
Oh, the Darby brothers.
Or Darby brothers, sorry.
That's okay. I like both of them. I like them.
Uh-huh.
Like are we gonna describe them now? Because like
Go for it. Yep.
So there are these two. Are they twins? Were they twins, or just one's older and one's younger?
I think one's older, one's younger. They've got the same like outfits and things, but
they
yeah.
do. So, the Darby brothers, to sum up both of their powers, essentially, pro gamer. Both of them are pro gamers in different ways. So, older Darby, as they would call him, they run into him in a bar while they're frantically searching for Dio because they just got to Egypt, right? So they're literally going to every place. Like, do you know where this mansion is? Do you know where this mansion is? They're getting nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So they go into this bar, order a few drinks, drink it, show the picture. Bartender has no fucking idea where the mansion is, right? And I thought like the part where they all simultaneously drink was kind of funny. Was that just me?
No, that was great. It's because it's just no. Sorry, I was just going to say it's the way that he darkens the eyes of them. They're looking very seriously, and I think it's like iced tea, is it not? The order, and it's like
it wasn't even an alcoholic drink.
Yeah.
It was like I don't have alcohol, but I have iced tea. Yeah, I'll take that. Pretty much.
And they all drink it at once, like waiting to hear back, and he's just like, "Yeah, no, I don't know this place." It's like Jesus Christ.
Oh my god,
so funny.
And then all of a sudden they see, basically someone out of Las Vegas with a poker table playing with a bunch of cards, and they're like, oh, I could give you some information if you beat me in poker, pretty much, right?
Oh yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, so if you could give us information, we need to confirm that you know what this place is. Though they show him Dio's mansion. They're like, yeah, I know that place, I know where it is, right? And they're like, oh, okay, so we have to beat this guy in poker. Turns out it's one of Dio's top generals. So older Darby's power is that if you basically, his stand is tied to just winning in games of poker. If you lose to him, he gets your soul, essentially, and puts it in a chip, like a poker chip, right, guys? And then, basically, I think it was Joseph was second. The first guy who got his soul taken was Polnareff, I believe, right? I think it was Polnareff?
I think it is. Sorry, can I just point something out in that scene?
Yeah,
Sorry
sure.
to kind of cut in.
Oh, no, no worries.
This is going back to my hatred of the fact that, like, Hamon isn't a thing in this. So, I was talking to... So, my friend Sades, who I think I mentioned in the past, was the one who was getting me into the series. And this is a person I've been, like, texting, being like, where's Hamon? Where's this? Where's that? But in that scene, basically, like, before the poker game, there's this, like, game where they have to put, like, I think coins in, like a glass of water, and they basically have to make sure that it doesn't overflow. So it's like they can choose how many coins they're going to put in. They're going to put in like a couple or whatever. And what I was thinking, because for some reason Joseph said he was going to cheat, or like he was like, okay, I've got this, I can swindle him. And I genuinely assumed he was just going to use his Hamon to keep the water in, because that's what he's done in the past. And then it was some like weird thing about chocolate melting under the cup or something. I was like,
something like that.
What?
Yeah, it got kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah, but anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. And I should probably correct how older Darby's power works. It doesn't have to be poker. It just has to be a bet of some sort.
Yeah.
Like if you lose a bet to him, he gets your soul. Like it's not. It could be in poker. It could be like, hey, will this person turn left or turn right, right?
Yeah.
You could bet on that, and then you could lose, and then that was it, right? So yeah, basically, long story short, first, Polnareff loses because he takes a stupid bet. I think the bet was like, do you think the kid's going to take the ball, or do you think he's not? And Polnareff's like, oh, easy, he's going to take the ball. He's a kid. He's going to fucking play with it.
Yeah.
And the kid doesn't take the ball. So that's how Polnareff loses his soul, gets put into a chip. And then, yeah, as Satsu explained earlier, Joseph loses because he tries to cheat, but then I don't know, something happens with like chocolate around the rim of the
Yeah.
around the rim of the cup with like water. It
think
wasn't even
it's
water; it was like chocolate milk or something. I
no,
don't
no, no.
fucking
I think
remember.
it was water, but
It was water.
it was
Okay.
like I think it was like a piece of chocolate or something that was under the
No, it was
glass tip
coins.
in it.
It was coins.
No, but I
I
mean
think that's
underneath
like
the glass. Was it not
Sorry, say
like
that again.
no? Was it not like it was like a glass of water and they were putting the coins in, but
Yeah.
underneath the glass of water, for some reason, there was like a bit of chocolate underneath it that was tipping it over to make it look as if it was like more full than it actually was. And for some reason, the heat, like, this is the most convoluted explanation ever. But it's like, it's like the heat like melted the chocolate, so the glass like returned to a normal level. It's like, just use Hamon. Just you've got
pretty
it there.
much, right? And
It's
then
free
Joseph
real
forgot to
estate.
do that and lost.
Yeah.
And basically, how we end up defeating older Darby is that Jotaro goes in and he's like, okay, we're gonna play poker, right? I think they're playing blackjack, I believe, something like that, right? Say thing is like, okay, yeah, I wager everything, and he's just like, and he basically just bluffs him so hard to the point that he has him like legitimately sweating, guys. He's just like, how can you keep betting more? I literally bet all the souls that I have in my book. What are you gonna bet? What are you gonna bet that's equal value? He's like, I bet my mom's soul. Like everyone's just like, are you serious?
Have you heard?
And then he starts panicking because he has nothing to bet, and then that's how they end up defeating him.
I was just going to say, have you seen the or heard the Japanese dub of that, where he says he's going to raise, and he like takes a breakdown, and he goes raise. Or something like that.
He's like he can't even say it. Oh my god, the whole scene is so funny. A bit of a side note: when I was playing Eyes of Heaven, that game mode was the most fun. Trying to cheat your way out of older Darby, because I found that shit so fun.
Oh really?
Like. Yeah, it was actually a ton of fun. Like, I was like, oh, it's not trying to pummel literally everything that moves for once.
Yeah.
We get to play poker and, like, kind of cheat at it. This is actually fun, right?
Yeah.
Like, the game would, like, give you subtle cues, like, okay, this is a good time to cheat. Okay, don't cheat just yet, right? Like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if you ever pick it up, Satsu, like, you'll probably have the most fun with that game mode.
It's honestly on the backlog. I've got it waiting. It's like waiting and ready, but yeah. I'll
and if you'd like to describe what younger Darby can do, Satsu, since I covered older.
Yeah, well, younger Darby, as you said, is indeed a pro gamer as well.
Yes.
But in the literal sense of he literally plays video games to steal people's souls. It gives me a bit of... I don't know, have you ever seen the Season 0 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Before?
No, I haven't.
No, but I would totally recommend it, like, off topic, but, like, basically the premise of that is the main character, like, plays all these, like, different death games. It gets very intense, like, for things about, like, yo-yos and, like, chess and things. It gets very dark very fast, but it's great. But that's what it kind of reminded me of with younger Darby, where he's got, like, a collection of all these, like, dolls around him, and it's like if you lose then you get turned into a doll. And this scene, like the scene where they confront, so basically it's Jotaro, Joseph and Kakyoin that confront him, and this scene has been like memed to death, where it's like Jotaro plays and then insert any game here,
Smash Ultimate, Fall Guys, those are my favorite renditions,
or Minecraft or things like that.
Yeah.
And he can basically tell as well, like his kind of secondary ability is he can tell when people are lying. So that's another meme where it's like Jotaro's face and it's got like the yes like around him.
Or the no.
Yeah. And yeah, he basically
I do.
So he can basically predict like yes, no questions as well, which is kinda neat, I have to say. But he ends up challenging Kakyoin, first of all, to basically a F-Zero knockoff, which they call F-Mega.
F-Mega?
Yeah, F-Mega, which is a brilliant name. Like, I absolutely
love it. It's a great name. I need to find that game, it's rare. I heard it's rare.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what's the game that... Is it Strikeout or something that Jotaro...
No, that's a baseball.
That's a baseball, yeah. That's a baseball. I was like, what the...
Oh, that's a baseball.
Yeah. And they play this game where their stands are in the TV, but it's like Jotaro's characters are like Star Platinum, and I have been told, by the way, that whoever was in charge of drawing had a very like keen interest in the behinds of said characters on this, which has caused a lot of screenshots to surface on the internet. That's all I'm saying. It's very It's very concerning.
Thick platinum, yeah,
Thick
that's a known
platinum,
guy.
exactly.
Thick platinum,
Oh.
star thicknum or something like that. Yeah,
Going supernova with that booty. You know, that kind of thing.
yeah. Oh
It's
my
like,
goodness,
God
yeah.
damn. But yeah, it's like, eventually, I can't remember how they defeat him, but they end up beating him in his game. I can't remember, is it Joseph that plays instead of him?
Yes, that's what it
Yeah,
was, right? Like,
yeah.
Joseph had Hermit Purple like connected to the actual controller that was plugged
Oh,
in
of
somewhere,
course, yeah.
and Jotaro was punking him in a sense that he picked up another controller that was never plugged in, right?
Ah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, something like that, right? And
Yeah,
then he took off his hat because he asked him to. He's like, "Oh, you're hiding something under your hat. Take it off." He's like,
yeah.
"Sure." Take off his hat. Nothing. He's like, "The hell?" and all that. It's like, "So you're not lying?" He's like, "No."
Yeah. I have
It's
to
like,
admit,
"But you are cheating."
yeah,
Yes,
yes,
he
yes,
is
yes.
pretty much.
Like, I have to admit, I thought that was really interesting the way they got around it. I thought that was quite clever. Yeah, because even I was just like, how the hell are they doing this? And then
Yeah,
they
right.
reveal it, and you're like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then they get Kakyoin in Soul, and then
Yeah, they
Jotaro
just
does his he just beats
punch.
the shit out of him.
Oh
That's
yeah,
it.
that's pretty much how every interaction with Jotaro ends. Like,
Yeah,
just he beats the shit out of everybody.
pretty much.
It's a sight to behold. I have to admit, that is
It's a
like,
great sight to behold.
it is worth the build up for some of the cases where you're just like, okay,
Mhm.
Jotaro's going to beat him up, and they do, and you're like, yay, clapping
Yeah,
your hands
good
like,
guy wins,
yay,
pretty much.
fatality. It's like, oh no,
Pretty much.
Um,
Jotaro, please.
which of course then leads us to basically the finale episode,
Yeah.
really, isn't it? Where
Mhm.
Polnareff, Avdol, and Iggy try to stop Dio, or they try to confront Dio, but only Polnareff survives because one of his other minions, Ice, is it Vanilla Ice? I want to say.
Vanilla Ice, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
he
It
ends up
is.
like stopping him and nearly killing him, but Iggy like defeats him at the cost of his own life. And then a hilarious moment where Polnareff finally comes face to face with Dio, the man who manipulated him and all of this, and he runs up the stairs and then he blinks and all of a sudden he's back at the bottom of the stairs. And the reason is because Dio's like stopping time to push him down the stairs, and I think that is just hilarious.
That's so troll.
Yeah, it's like he's climbing up the stairs, he freezes time, he grabs him, puts him down below.
Pretty
And then
much.
just like one of my favourite edited images is seeing Super Mario 64 where you climb up the stairs but they're never ending. Like someone edited that so instead of Mario it was Polnareff. And it's like all the Dio like pictures on the wall, and I thought that is incredible. Like 10 out of 10 to whoever did that. It was so good. But of course eventually they all kind of regroup, and yeah, they have at it really to try and figure out what Dio's stand is, which I feel as if it's kind of obvious. Well, not kind of obvious, but you know, it's like they're all kind of being like, oh, how can they do this and that and teleport? And it's like, did you ever think maybe time? Like,
Did you ever think that
did you ever like
there's something up?
that's the thing. Nobody thinks of it until Kakyoin like points it out. Although the way he points it out. See, this is the thing. So later on, so you're two Crusaders down, and Kakyoin like basically tries to take Dio like one on one, and you're like, oh god, oh this is gonna be great, and then he gets like donut hold, and you're like, oh, he just gets
Yeah.
like punched, and I feel the death is sad, but I just feel as if they could have developed him more, and it would
Yep,
have been
100%.
sadder. Like, I'm not saying he's the worst developed character, but it's a shame they didn't get more time to, kind of shine, because I think I'd rather have more of Kakyoin rather than Avdol twice. It's
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
Like, oh yeah, I found a submarine. It's like, nobody cares, Avdol. Nobody cares. Go away.
I thought you died,
I
bro.
thought you died. I did. It's like, wait, what?
I do.
I do. But yeah, all the fights with like Dio are just. He is so over the top, though, isn't he?
He
Just
is.
like such an extra villain, but.
God, he's that's what makes him great though.
Oh, absolutely. No, he's a lot of fun to watch because, as we said before, like the kind of villains beforehand have just standard fare, really. I mean, literally, see before they end up going into the like his manor or whatever you call it, like the house he's in. I mean, they literally fight a falcon, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, which this is my kind of confession. I may or may not have skipped that episode because I was just like, I just want to see Dio. Why won't you let me see Dio?
Pretty much, right?
Oh, just
wasn't Iggy was the one who took care of the Falcon, from what I remember, and almost died.
Yeah, because I kind of skipped to the end, and I'm like, oh right, that's okay. He's alive, right? Okay, next episode. Because I was like, at that point, I was just getting, because I was binging it. I wasn't like taking it at a normal human pace like I should have. I was just kind of like, I was like, yeah, I've had enough. I just want to go home and watch Dio. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool fighting. Like, as I said, Kakyoin tries to take him on, but he ends up getting punched through the stomach, and he fires on like a clock tower to say, oh, it's all about time. To which I feel as if they were smart enough to be like, of course, time. You know, you're like, I don't know. Did you feel like that when,
as in like when Dio?
Just more when the characters were like, I wonder what his stand is, and it seemed a bit obvious. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I didn't know entirely what his stand was all about, but it did seem kind of obvious that
Like, it was obvious that it was a powerful stand, for one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, like, when I first saw it, like, the whole stairs scene, which was still pretty comical, in my opinion. Yeah. I was like, the thing is, sadly, I watched the memes before I even watched part 3, right?
Oh,
so I kind of knew at the back of my mind, it's like, hey, he's stopping time to fuck with him. Right. But say if I didn't watch the memes, if I didn't even know what Stardust Crusaders was, and I were to watch the anime, I'd be like, the fuck is this guy doing? Like, the guy's clearly going up the stairs. And I honestly thought, so here's what I would think if I didn't know about the memes. I just would think that there was a trick to the stairs that, Kakyoin wasn't aware of, that Dio's stand is doing, right? Not necessarily that it was stopping time, but Dio's stand is clearly doing something. Yeah. He just hasn't figured it out, right? So that's how I would have felt if I didn't know about the memes. So I guess no, I don't think I would have think it was like I didn't think it was super obvious,
So I'm just laughing because when
I know it's still a little funny.
It's not even that. It's like as soon as you said stairs, I just thought of Stair Platinum being a stand. And I thought that would be like either the most useless or the most interesting stand in the world. It's like, oh god.
Oh my god.
But yeah, but the whole fight, like between Jotaro and because Joseph tries to bravely run away, which he does. He definitely runs away, but I suppose in a justified way, because he like covers himself with Hermit Purple and Hamon. And Dio's just like, yeah, I don't care about Hamon anymore. And I'm like, don't you start. It's like, don't you start saying you don't care about Hamon.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah, eventually it's Jotaro's turn, which, again, another 2-in-1 memes here. We've got Zawardo, which I think it's just the delivery of it is just fantastic, followed by the sound effect,
Yeah, like the way the voice actor just like delivers 2 words, which is the world, and how he like yells it at the top of his lungs. It's just, there's something about it, like as memey as it is, it's just so well delivered, you know what I mean?
Oh, it's
spectacular. Like a very extra melodramatic Shakespearean villain with a very powerful ability like that, like he sold it, in my opinion.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Like whoever the voice actor is.
What was the Ho, are you approaching me? Which is, so there's a scene where Joseph, sorry, let me backtrack. Dio ends up, when he uses Zawardo, he ends up stabbing like quite a few people, including Joseph. So Joseph is basically telling Jotaro to run, and Jotaro starts walking towards him. And Dio has the whole extra, oh, are you approaching me? Instead of running away. And then, of course, Jotaro cuts in saying, I can't. As he says again,
I can't beat the shit out of you without getting close. Pretty much.
Exactly. It's like, oh, then come as close as you like, and they just start beating one another.
They're like, oh my god, because that meme, that scene's also been mean to hell. Like, I remember when COVID first dropped, one of the memes was literally like, "Oh, you're approaching me," and then like it's the same line, and like someone edited like the captions like, "Get the fuck away from me." That's literally Dio is like, there's a pandemic going on and all that.
Yeah.
Like, and like you just see Jotaro keep walking. He's like, no, stay away. And he like, it's just so funny.
I think there was another meme like that where it's like you see like Dio walking off screen, and it's because he's like coughing, and he's it's the same thing. He's just like, yeah, no, I don't come near, and then it's like he ends up beating them off screen because he came too close. And it's like, oh no. But it's quite an intense fight
It
because,
is.
like,
It
he
is.
keeps stopping time, and then it works in Namek minutes here, where it's like, I've stopped for 5 seconds. And there's actually videos out there where it's like, what would happen if the world, like, ran on real time? And it's like, come on. It's like, it says, like, the world around him is stopped for 5 seconds. It's like, you've been monologuing for the last, like, 20. What the hell?
Right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm about to blow up this planet in 5 minutes. 10 episodes later.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
It's one of
oh,
those, yeah.
yeah.
Except not dragged out.
Yeah.
Not super dragged out. Sorry,
Oh,
is what I'm
no,
trying to
yeah.
get at. Yeah.
But then eventually it kind of escalates where Dio goes like Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Did they ever explain why he goes
I
like
was like, so like, well, basically like the second phase of the final boss, pretty much.
Yeah, uh-huh.
I think so. What happened is that after Jotaro almost gets him, like he was very close to killing him, and then like I think a car hits Dio, from what I can remember.
Does he not grab a car to get away?
Oh yeah, he grabbed the car,
Yeah.
and then like he lets go, and when he lets go, like he goes flying near Joseph's body, from what I can remember.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he basically, because he's a vampire, he sucked out Joseph's blood, and then that's what made him stronger. And because he has Jonathan's body, and he's a descendant of Jonathan, that's what made him have a second wind, essentially. I think that's how they explained it, something like that, right?
I forgot all about
And then,
that.
yeah, Jotaro was all like, "Oh fuck!" Like, because he realized he fucked up, right?
Yeah.
Because I think the reason why he also went flying was because Jotaro caught up to him and just like punched him like really hard in the face with Star Platinum, right? So that like Jotaro's like, "Fuck, I fucked up," essentially, right? He's like, "I need to kill him quickly, and then hopefully, Gramps could be back to normal, right?" So yeah, I think that's what happened.
Yeah. I completely forgot about that. Cause
Something like that, yeah.
Because I was thinking of the two like things of Dio. I was like, normal Dio, Super Saiyan Dio. I'm like, what? Where did I miss the
Second
link?
wind Dio.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah. And yeah,
Dio with no jacket, pretty much. Like, actually.
Oh god. And then eventually, well, just as the normal hero story goes, Jotaro ends up basically overcoming Dio by punching him really hard and learning that he too has like the world or something. I think that's like a very contentious point. People keep saying, "Oh, Jotaro pulled it out his backside," but it's like he could family lineage, something. A wizard did it. It's like it's more believable than Dio managing to sneak out of that burning ship. That's all I'm saying. I don't know, but yeah, of course they end up defeating them, and yeah, everything more or less is right with the world, and stands are never seen again.
So one thing that we forgot to point out was I found this scene hilarious, where after Dio is defeated, after Jotaro learns how to use Zawardo as well. Big plot twist on that because
of
I think
course,
it's because Star Platinum and the world are like the same kind of stand, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
That was literally the reason as to why Jotaro learned how to stop time for just, I think it was like, what, 3 seconds?
Yeah.
It wasn't like to the same extent as the world's time stop. So after that, Jotaro calls up the Speedwagon Foundation, and he has Joseph's body and whatever was left remaining of Dio's headless body at this point, because I'm pretty sure he cut off his head, right? Something like that.
Does he not like punch him through the leg?
Yeah, I don't know, like, yeah. Oh, that's right. He's missing a leg.
He like rips him apart. It's like really brutal.
No head, no leg.
Yeah.
That, like, well, picture that, but everything else is still there, guys.
Yeah.
I know it sounds weird. No head, no leg. But what's going on in the ambulance that the Speedwagon Foundation is driving in is that there's a blood transfusion going on between Joseph and Dio. Well, Jonathan's body, really, right?
Yeah.
Because Jotaro's thinking is like, okay, I think there's a chance to save him because Dio had my ancestor's body, who is my grandfather's grandfather. So blood transfusion, right?
Makes sense.
They're related. And then as that's happening, it looks like the life is slowly turning back to Joseph. Wait, no, sorry. It wasn't really working, right? Because the reason is like Joseph's heart isn't going. Like, we're getting a good amount of blood. It's just his heart's not going. And I'm pretty sure Jotaro. Oh no!
Yeah, he uses Star Platinum to pump.
Yeah, he
his
used
heart.
Star Platinum to like jumpstart his heart, like because they didn't have a defibrillator or something.
Yeah, so it's like
something
why
like that,
not?
right?
Yeah.
And then so that happened, and then Joseph wakes up, and it's like, okay, all is right with the world. But then Joseph is all like, "Ha, Jotaro, you fool! I'm back again once more." And he's like, "Dio, no." I knew this would happen. And then he summons Star Platinum. Then all of a sudden Joseph goes and was like, "Wait, hold on, I'm kidding. I'm not Dio. I'm good." I was like, "Don't kill me, please." I think that part was actually really funny because I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that was the same.
It's like, it's really me. Hold on. And it's like, "Wait, stop. It's really me." It's like, "Prove it." I'm okay. And I think Jotaro asked him like, "Who's your favorite like musician?" And he's like, "That's easy. That's my favorite musician." He's like, "Okay, it really is you," because no one else would know
It's
that but
like,
me.
is it
Something
not?
like something like that, right?
Is it not like Weird Al Yankovic that he
Yeah,
says? It's just like,
yeah. It's like
it's always,
Yankovic, and he's
yeah.
like, "Okay, it really is you," because only I know that, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like, because only you would know this kind of useless information. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
god, you.
That part
Jojo.
made me laugh so hard because I didn't expect it. I'm just like, because at first I'm like, oh shit, right? Then I'm
Yeah,
like, oh wait, Joseph's just being
yeah.
Joseph how he usually is, just a
Yeah.
friggin' idiot, right? So I'm like, okay, that's funny. I'm not
Uh,
gonna lie, because like when I saw that part, Satsu, I'm just like, oh my god, young Joseph is still in there somewhere. The troll, you know what I mean?
yeah.
He's like still somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's quite a good ending, like,
Yeah, I like the
to the
ending.
series. I'm just trying to remember what else happens. Yeah, so sorry. Polnareff and the remaining Joe Stars end up, like, they end up going
Yeah.
their separate ways, don't they? And then that's it, really. There's no, like, foreshadowing to part four. It kind of just
Mhm.
ends, really. And then, oh yeah, they put out Dio's body into the sun. And it like
Mhm.
shrivels up, so it's completely gone at this point. Sorry, there's just one scene I want to point out that we kind of glossed over. This is before the final fight. Do you
Mhm.
remember the scene where there was a vampire, vampire stand user who was like, "I would willingly serve you, Dio," and he's like, "Okay, give me your head," and he chops off his head, and then Dio's just like, "Yeah, no, I'm just gonna put this head back on," and it's like,
Oh
huh.
yeah,
It's
I was
like,
just like, what the fuck?
huh,
Pretty much. I forgot about that
interesting.
too. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
It's like, huh, okay, fair enough. But yeah, kind of, just to summarise, because I know we have, so far we've talked about the three parts. So we've said Joseph is Jonathan is the gentleman type who will,
Mhm.
try and save everyone.
Awful good. Yep.
Joseph is the lovable rogue who is a bit cheeky, but usually 9 times out of 10 does what's right. How would you rate Jotaro overall?
Okay, so if we were to put them, so for our three JoJos that we've talked about, if I were to put them in the D&D alignment chart, I would say Jonathan is 100% lawful good, Joseph 100% chaotic good in my opinion.
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
for Jotaro, I wouldn't really. He has a code, but he also doesn't. Is that just me?
Yeah. See, this is
So I
the
would say he's like neutral, maybe neutral good,
yeah,
like on the border. Like I wouldn't say he's 100% a good. Like he wouldn't go out of his way. Would he?
yeah.
Would he go out of his way for a
Uh,
stranger? I don't think he would.
I think it depends because
Yeah, he's like true neutral to me, or
yeah,
even like neutral good even.
because I always remember I was talking to one of my friends who watched part
Mhm.
one and two, then got to part three and dropped it because they said they didn't like Jotaro and the fact that he was like really horrible towards his mother. And initially, like as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Oh God, I'm gonna hate Jotaro." And I heard him, like he calls his mum a bitch and things, and he's very like
Yeah.
assertive towards her, and I was like, "Oh come on!" But what I didn't realise was there's a lot of kind of subtleties, like after the first couple of episodes, where you can see he's actually not all that bad.
He
Like,
really isn't.
I feel as if it's just he needs a kind of shove in the right direction. And he
Yeah,
just needs to
he's yeah.
yeah, he's nice deep down.
Mhm.
And I do think, like, and again, this kind of like leads nicely on to part four, but yeah, for part four, I feel as if that's when he starts to kind of develop a lot more,
Mhm.
compared to like his appearance in part three, where ironically enough he's the main character, and yet somehow he's developed more in another
Yeah.
part. But yeah, I'd say it's not too bad. But one final question for you.
Sure.
What are your final thoughts? Like, in a couple of sentences, what would you say are your kind of final thoughts on part three?
Honestly speaking, part 3 out of the 5 parts I've watched, it's going to sound odd to say, but it felt like the most shonen anime out of the 5. Is that just me?
That actually makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Like you had your fairly linear storyline, you had your millions of fillers before the actual final fight. Another thing is that, like a shonen character can either range from being super happy go lucky, so we have like examples would be like Naruto, Gon from Hunter x Hunter, or just complete opposite, like super edge lords like
Mm-hmm.
well, in the beginning Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho, not really an edge lord, just like a punk kid, and Jotaro in that category, right? So out of 10, I would give Stardust Crusaders probably a 7 out of 10. Like, I didn't mind it too much. I think honestly the memes also helped because I was also just trying to find out what the context of all these memes were.
Yeah.
Storyline wise, I feel like Araki made a mistake by adding too many characters.
Yeah.
Right? You know, in part 2, there was a good amount of characters, even like the random NPCs that only lasted for one episodes. Like he didn't focus too much on, right? Whereas with a bunch of these villains that they fight, I feel like some of the fights just drag on too long, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you know, most of them they lose in one episode, right? And I'm just like, okay, whatever, right? Like that's fine. In my opinion, that's fine to do. Just don't oversaturate it that way, right? And I think he made that mistake when it came to the story writing. And then I think because he made that mistake, you start seeing that he's improving on that in part 4. I don't know if that's just me. Like, there's also a lot of characters in part 4, but you know, it didn't seem oversaturated. Like all of them were memorable in their own right, even if they weren't like super focused on. Was that just me, Satsu, watching part 4?
I totally agree with you. I feel as
Yeah.
if like part 3 had just a lot of characters that went nowhere. I mean, there's loads of characters we actually haven't even mentioned. Like, for example, I want to call her like a soothsayer or like a witch. You know, the
the old
steal.
lady. Yeah.
I mean,
Forgot
there's
about
her. There's like there's someone who has like an underwater stand that tries to eat them. You know, there's like
also
all of these.
There's so many, you know. That was the problem,
Yeah.
right? So I was gonna say, as you mentioned earlier, you mentioned your friend, right? Who didn't really like he stopped with part 3. And like because I think that would be like definitely one of the reasons why is like there's just too many people in this show
Absolutely.
that we don't really care about. We only really care about the main 5 and Dio. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
And to me, like the only really standoutish villains in that whole thing were the brothers, Mariah, which is the magnet lady. I thought she was pretty standoutish.
Oh no, she is for reasons.
I mean, I guess like as you mentioned before, Kakyoin is also severely underdeveloped. I did appreciate the fact that they did develop not Kakyoin, sorry, Polnareff a bit more, right? Because they actually did go into his backstory, and I'm like, okay,
they did,
like sure, you have 5 characters, develop them, right? And he did a good job with that, I'd say, with Polnareff's whole backstory, other than, you know, bring back Abdal. But like everything else in it, like he's out for blood. He's trying to find the guy who killed his sister. Fine, right? He does that, and I feel like they should have just left it at that after he accomplishes his goal, right? And then like either they could have gone the route of like, oh, you know, I did what I had to do, I'm out, right? Like good luck with your journey. They could have definitely done that with Polnareff, in my opinion. Or if you wanted him to stick with the main 5, I think a big thing was that he was pretty popular among the fans. If I could assume that, do you think that's safe to assume, Satsu?
Yeah,
like he's fairly popular, right? So I think that's why they kept him around. To me, if you're gonna do that, like find another reason as to why he would stick with the party, right?
Yeah.
Because you know, to me, like I feel like if I couldn't find a reason for Polnareff to stick around, I'll be like, okay, he did what he had to do, and he's leaving on friendly terms, right? But you know, like, oh wait, I lied. Actually, we kind of did see as to why he stuck around. It's like, oh, Dio manipulated my life. I'm like, sorry, ignore my like first half of the argument, but never mind. I'm like, so he does stick around for a good reason because he wants to get Dio too.
Yeah.
Because at one point Dio mind controlled him. I forgot that was their first meeting, that they had to fight him to snap him out of it, right? See, like, because there was like as we said earlier, there's too much going on in this anime. There's too many characters that it makes you forget the little things, like little important things like that, right? So I think that's what Araki, the whole issue is with part 3. There's just too many bodies, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like what I was saying before when I was bringing up like different, like just the random users that you encounter. And I mean, you were saying like, oh yeah, I remember that now. And it's like, I do agree. I feel as if there is far too much going on. It's weird because like Phantom Blood was like so short in comparison to this part. Yet it did so much in terms of like establishing the world and what was going on. And I get it, it's probably because the manga was like a lot longer and they got the chance to expand it. I'm not saying like Stardust Crusaders could have been smaller, but it should have been a lot more focused, I think. Like, I mean, as I've said before, like I'm not a professional manga writer or, you know, anything like that, but I don't know. I feel as if that it's a good anime, but it's definitely one that could be cut in places, and it's one that you could skip like a good chunk of this and not really miss out on much. And I mean, as I said, there's like loads of people we haven't even touched on, like even the puppet guy in the hotel room. Like there's just there's a lot of them just coming to my head just now, just like, oh yeah, there's him, there's that, there's this. It's just, yeah, I would agree.
There's a lot of characters that weren't super memorable, and like it was just an oversaturation, which is a problem, right?
Yeah, Absolutely.
I know that it's a running gag with the anime God of High School where literally you only remember the main character and two of his friends, and then apparently they made the mistake of introducing way too many characters that people don't really care about, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think the other thing that Araki was trying to do with this was like, oh, the main five or four turned to five, they're traveling the world, to get to Dio. And I think what he was trying to get with that is like, because they're going to so many different, not like so many different countries, but a good amount of countries, he had to introduce like, okay, this person's from this country and you're going to run into them here in this country. They can do this and all that, right? I think that's what he was sort of trying to get at. Well, not only that, but they were also all hired by Dio.
Yeah.
But it wasn't executed properly, right? And then, as you said before, like you end up not caring about literally 90% of these villains that pop up out of nowhere, right?
Pretty
you only
much,
really
yeah.
care about the head honcho, which is Dio. So
Maybe I'm being too harsh on it, but I would probably overall give it about a 6, maybe.
6? Okay.
Like,
Okay.
It's...
I'm not gonna smite you. Don't worry.
I know, it's like, I'm just putting out
some people in the comments might, but I won't.
Yeah.
I got your back, Satsu.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know, I feel as if like after how hyped and how well part 2 was done, it's a bit of a letdown, but at the same time, and this will probably be a nice way to kind of end it, but like I feel as if that it kind of at least gets all the guff out the way and sets up nicely to part 4, where we start to where it's basically like he's probably seen what went wrong in part 3 and then just refined it into part 4, which I mean, as we both said, are part 4 is one of the best parts of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and that is what we're going to be talking about next time. So be on the lookout for that, because I'm excited and I know you're hyped as well.
We both love part 4 because
part 4 is so good.
Well, we'll get into that next week, guys.
Absolutely. So where can these awesome Joe Bros find your content?
Of course, for the awesome Joe Bros in chat, find me at twitch.tv/BlowfishmanTV, all one word. Mondays, we are an attorney at law. We are the Ace Attorney. We are Phoenix Wright. Wednesdays, we go to my other job, my afternoon job, as I'd like to put it. We're trying to kill a one-winged angel, or trying to get there. And of course, Fridays, we go to my night job and slay some zombies, have fun with that. We're also trapped in a house, if you guys are interested in that, with a girl. I mean, I know a lot of you Twitch and YouTubers are all like, oh, this guy's hanging out with a girl, that's content. So feel free to check that out. And I also do very scuffed voices on the Monday streams too. So if you guys are into that, feel free to hit me up there.
But the top tier scuffed voices.
Oh, thank you. I try.
The top percent. And if you want to see more of my content, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and of course Twitch under the name Satsunami42. If you want to see more of my content, or rather the content of the podcast Chatsunami, you can catch it on Anchor, Spotify, and all good podcast distributors. And if you want to catch it live, you can catch it on Satsunami42 over on Twitch at 7:30 PM BST every Wednesday. So feel free to check it out. But Blowfish, thank you so much once again for coming on and just chatting JoJo.
Oh, of course, man. Anytime. Thank you for always having me to chat JoJo.
Oh, no problem. No, the sessions are always a blast, so thank you so much.
Of course.
As always, guys, stay safe, stay awesome. Most importantly, stay hydrated. And if you see a very weird photoshopped image of a naked vampire, just burn it.
Burn it. Yep. Don't get involved. Just,
don't get
involved. That's all.
It's not your fight. And if you see a smashed camera, keep walking. Just keep walking.
Keep walking, yeah. If you hear a guy yelling the world at the top of his lungs, it's best you stay away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bye, guys.
See ya.